In the last few years, two of the most important topics of public discussion have been the changing strategic order in Asia and the size and nature of Australia's population. Australia is the sixth largest country in the world. Its size is about the same as that of the United States without Alaska. However, if we look at the map of the United States and Australia at night, we observe completely distinct patterns. On the US side, there are cities and small towns a long way from the coast. On the Australian side, the region is almost completely deserted, with the major and small communities concentrated exclusively around the shore. Comparing the two nations' overall populations is inappropriate, but this comparison is useful for observing their respective demographic structures. So the questions are, why do almost 80% of Australians live here when they have such a large territory in the interior, and why do people in the United States live in the middle of the country instead of near the coasts? And why hasn't Australia's government decentralized its population? The indigenous Australians and the first European settlers who came to Australia decided where to live based on the resources they needed to survive, such as water, food, and shelter. And it was usual for the first settlers to arrive in the country to do so along the coasts and later begin to explore the interior of the country, founding new settlements. However, this didn't happen in Australia. In the outback, there are no small towns, let alone large cities. The main reason is that most Australian outback is desert or semi-desert, with weathered, eroded terrain and extreme climatic conditions supporting large cities and towns. These desert areas have arisen because Australia receives the second least rainfall after Antarctica. On the side of the country's central region is Lake Erie, where several rivers flow, but most of the time they have no water. So it's not difficult to conclude why this part of Australia is practically uninhabited. In contrast, there is a great dividing along the eastern region along the entire coast. Unlike the interior, most coastal areas are green and blessed with fresh water. And that's why Australia's population patterns are so strong. Water means life. It facilitates survival and often translates into abundant food because rivers make the nearby soil more fertile for growing crops. It also makes fishing and the raising of livestock and other animals possible. Indigenous Australians lived on the east and south coasts of what is known as the Murray River because they had easy access to fresh water and extensive farmland. Early settlers settled in this area of Australia because of access to water and the gold rush, which created thousands of immigrants. The Mississippi River carries 10% of the nation's goods, some 460 million tons of goods such as coal, steel, aluminum, and agricultural products. Water is vital for human consumption, agriculture, and industry, since most final products require large quantities of water to be finished. In addition, most of the country's largest cities are located on the coasts or the banks of large rivers. Right now, 30% of Australia's population comprises immigrants. In the last 20 years alone, more than 3.6 million have come to the country. Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Perth are some of Australia's most popular cities. Still, the government has been trying to decentralize the population to relieve the pressure on these cities. The government has had programs for several decades to attract immigrants to the regions away from the coasts. There are specific visas for this, but although there may be employment opportunities and good quality of life in these regions, immigrants behave like young Australians in the end. They're attracted precisely by Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, and Brisbane. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.